We are live on this fantastic Thursday, and I am joined tonight by some fabulous ladies that were so nice to me before we got on this live. I just can't wait to introduce them to the world. So, we have, and I don't know how everybody looks on the screen, but we have Tamisha Swan Stewart.
Evening.
We have Tasha Fisher.
Hello.
We have Gina Todd.
Hey, y'all.
And if you know Gina Todd, you know that this is a miracle. If you've never witnessed a miracle in your life, you can count today, Thursday, May 7th, 2020, as a miracle to have Gina here. So I want to welcome everybody. I want to encourage everyone that if you have not done so, please go and follow RETV. That stands for Relationship Entertainment Television. Hi, Lauren. I see that you said hi. We ask that everyone please share and like the video. Throughout the course of the show, I will encourage you to remind people to ask questions. Feel free. We want to engage with you. I know that we're here talking, but you're right here with us. So if you have a question for any of the ladies, please feel free to do that. Now, tonight's topic is a sensitive topic. We are talking about the losses and the joy. You're right here with us. So if you have a question. And as the ladies get ready to share their stories, you will be able to hear that some of them, all of them actually have experienced not having a pregnancy to come full. And one, it was full, but the child did not survive. And then we have some that had those experiences and went on to become mothers. So we're going to talk about motherhood, the losses and the joys. And I believe that there are a number of women that are in our society that have experienced miscarriages. And sometimes they are honored as being moms. We can forget about them. And so I want to bring this conversation to light just so that we could hear from some ladies that experienced it. How did you overcome it? There are some women that have experienced it and they may still be in a really tough spot mentally. And so for those of you that are going to share your story tonight, please tell us how you overcame. Take us back to the moment you found out you were pregnant and all that came with that. So what we're going to do tonight is have the eldest go. I'm going to try my best not to shoot any shots at y'all because y'all were giving me the business before we logged on here. So I'm going to try to be as nice as possible. Y'all, if I told y'all what they were saying about Latoya, y'all would tell me I'm doing a good job by getting on them tonight. But we're going to go with the eldest. And then we'll go on down to Tamisha, and then we'll end with Gina with telling your story. So we're going to start with Tasha.
All right. Well, I didn't know I was the eldest, but praise the Lord.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. It was just a little one. Sorry, Toya. Not so sorry. No. Well, my story, it just I have an interesting story. It just starts out, I actually became a mother before I was a mother. Once I got married, I had a 1.5-year-old that I was looking after and taking care of for about 16 years. So just with that, it was just interesting because it switched my life from not being a mother to being a mother-like figure. I always would share with my stepdaughter. First of all, let me say that I treated her just as my own. When you saw me, you saw her. She was on my hip. And where I went, she was, so I treated her just as my own. So it was a blessing to be able to be in her life and to be that consistency, which I know that God had called me to be in her life. Now, if you ask my mom will say that I was always a little mother, somebody's mother, just even as a child. So it was just in me. I guess because I grew up mainly around my mom and her sisters. And so all I had was just older women around me. So it just, but all that wisdom and all that good stuff that they showed, it just kind of soaked in. And so I carried it. So it actually prepared me for motherhood before I became a mother. Um, and just I recall taking every opportunity that I could to instill wisdom, to make lessons, um, so that she can grasp it and hold on to that as she grew up. And then when she was grown, she'll remember those things that were instilled in her. And I think it was very important to be able to understand my purpose in her life. Um, but the yearning to have my own child, never went away. So finally, after a cruise, about 4 day cruise, I ended up pregnant, and that was in 2010. And so it came at a time because I actually thought that I was like, okay, well, I'm just unfruitful. I just can't have babies, and I'll have to look for, another option. And it was like God said, no, you're not unfruitful. You have fruit in your womb. And found out that I was pregnant about 2 months later. So I will always call her my souvenir from the cruise.
I don't know. Water.
Didn't quite happen on the cruise, but afterwards. But it was just I think it was very pivotal because it gave me opportunity to just kind of relax, unwind, de-stress, not even think about that. And then it just happened. God moved. And so the pregnancy went fairly well up until about 17 weeks. And I actually had a seminar that I had to travel to that morning when I started labor, which I didn't know I was in labor. I had some back labor going on, but I didn't know it was back labor. I thought it was just pain or maybe some uh, constipation or things that pregnant women deal with. And so I went ahead and went on the trip. I just knew for some reason, I just knew that I had to be. It actually happened here in Dallas. I knew I had to be in Dallas. And so I went on my trip. And the beautiful thing that I pulled from that particular situation was that God's hand was in it all. Even though I couldn't see you just see his hand just moving. I couldn't see him, but I saw his hand moving in the situation. And all along the way, and this just kind of unfolded after I, I ended up having a miscarriage. But, well, not a miscarriage. They said it was spontaneous labor. So, but the thing about it is that even in the midst of all of that, God surrounded me with people that could love on me, people that were praying for me, people from all walks of life. It didn't matter what the race was, it didn't matter the age, it didn't matter any of that. And it was actually a Mary Kay seminar. So I went, and that once I arrived, I had an event to go to, but I wasn't feeling well. So I decided not to go, just sleep it off. All the while I was in labor and didn't know. But God, even before I had got to the hotel, God had told one of the ladies that I was in trouble and to pray for me. And so she prayed for me, she didn't tell me exactly what God said at that time, but it came out later. And so just throughout that day, eventually it just happened. I won't go into too far into details, but again, just the people. There was one particular lady. Her name was Katrina. Uh, Katrina, and she was she worked at the Starbucks store. It's a Starbucks / convenience store, and so this lady didn't know anything, but she just really ministered to me.
Mm-hmm.
She knew I was pregnant. She knew I was having some issues, but still, even at that time, didn't even realize that I was going into labor. I was in active labor and didn't know it. Mm-hmm. And so she took a wet towel and held it on my head, put it one on the back of my neck, and just was there. And I'm like, okay, you got a shop to run, but you're taking it. I was just so grateful for that. And even when things happened, she left the store unattended to come see about me. Even during that time, uh, it was very I think the word for it was just it was hard to go. It was the hardest thing in my life at that time to go through and to experience. But even then, still relying on faith.
Mm-hmm.
So the first reaction when it started to happen, and I just began to cry like, no, 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 this can't be happening. But even after seeing my baby's foot, I laid my hand on my baby's foot and said, even now, Lord, I know that you can do the impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever your will is, I'm going to fight until the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what I did. And my pain turned into praise. And there was a security guard that was that came in the bathroom with me. And the security guard, she was a woman of faith. This I found this out later. She was a woman of faith, and she was just walking and praying. And when it shifted from pain to praise, she was like, "That's it. Stay right there." She was like a midwife,
Mm.
a spiritual midwife,
Mm-hmm.
taking me through this process. And so when I say that God's hand was in it all, it's just that I lost so much blood that even as I arrived to the hospital, which happened to be the next exit over from the hotel,
Wow.
it was all God. And so I did pass out, but when the ambulance came, they saw that the baby was gone, that there was no baby, that there was blood. I said, but the baby blew out her own air bubble. But um, even then, she was too small. At 17 and a half weeks, they didn't have the equipment to be able to help her. She came too early. And so they weren't able to, put a breathing tube in her or anything like that. But I do recall that I passed out, I lost consciousness, I was losing too much blood. And, um, and I remember my spiritual mom happened to be there. And she she's a praying woman as well, so just all around I was covered in prayer from either strangers, complete strangers, or just people that God was putting in my pathway to pray for me.
Okay.
So even though I was there alone, my husband at the time was back home, family back home, and but I wasn't alone because he had people in place, but he was also there with me. And so as I was going in and out of consciousness, I can recall them saying, um, my blood pressure, they couldn't get it up. My blood pressure was dropping. They couldn't regulate it. And but all the while, they had Grace, my daughter, that's what I named her, Grace, right above my shoulder. And they were amazed because I heard them. They was like, she's still breathing. Oh my God. And I could just hear how she was shaking the faith of the nurses and the doctors that were in the room, because typically a child born at 17 and a half weeks, they only live 10 to 30 minutes. Grace lived 2 hours and 10 minutes. So God worked a miracle, but he sent us down there to strengthen somebody's faith or even to encourage someone along the way. And so I recall, even after her passing, that um, I just remember laying there and just praying. And even something just minuscule, they put me on the same, in that hospital, all the women that have had babies, going into labor, all on the same floor. And so as I heard the babies cry, every time I heard it, just broke my heart, because I'm like, okay, thank God. I'm so glad they have a healthy baby. But Lord, what happened to my baby?
Mm-hmm.
Because you promised me. I waited. I remained faithful to you concerning your word. What happened to my baby? And so I just began just have conversations, and people came, there were people that came and just kind of sat with me and talked with me. And I recall there was one question. I said, God, I don't question, I really don't question your actions because I know that you're a just God and you know what's best. The only thing I want to know is that did she have purpose? And immediately God spoke to my heart and told me that she did have purpose and revealed those things like, how he had us in Dallas to strengthen someone's faith. But even more than that, the word got around at the seminar that we were at, the Mary Kay seminar, and people couldn't believe that I still remained. I was still standing, still smiling, even after that. Um, I didn't go home. I didn't go to every event, but I still went because I knew it was a reason I needed to be there. And that reason was people needed to see that even in the midst of tragedy, even in the midst of turmoil that happened, that God was still there and God's hand was in it all. And that God is a keeper, even in your deepest hurt and the deepest losses that you have.
Right.
And and so, I just thank God, for that. And that security guard, 4 years later, I came down for the seminar again, and she asked for me, and my husband at the time asked for us by name and asked how we were doing. And she told this to my spiritual mom. She said, "There's not a day that goes by that I don't pray for them."
Wow.
Wow.
And that touched my heart. This is 4 years later.
Mm-hmm.
It touched my heart so not I couldn't help but thank God because I didn't lose my mind.
Right.
Even through all of that, I didn't lose my mind. And it was because somebody was praying for me daily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just so grateful for that. Now, even with that, I did have a miscarriage maybe 4 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing that just, it broke me. I actually, just looking back, I actually went into a depression
Okay.
for about a year. It was very subtle. People, I was still me, but at the same time, on the inside, I was just broken
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't understand. And I know that there are some people that are out there that's maybe thinking, I don't understand. There's people that don't want kids but have kids and don't take care of the kids.
Okay, let
Mhm.
me just say something about that.
Absolutely.
That's huge. And that was actually going to be a question that I wanted to ask you also. It's amazing that you even brought that up, Tasha, because I was thinking about your mental state.
Hmm.
You see children being abused.
Yes.
I don't think, I don't, I could see why you would go and you let her be
Hmm.
someone's parent. And what I know about you, you are very nurturing. You've always
Hmm.
been that way. Your mama Tasha. But to
Yeah.
have that part of you, yeah, really, to have that part of you question, like, and sometimes people feel like they can't question God. If
Hmm.
you don't have questions, you don't get answers. Like we have to
Right.
start somewhere, and I believe that part of the healing journey is asking those questions, sitting in whatever space you're in, because for me, I had all of mine,
Yes.
and I call them 5 beautiful surprises.
Yeah.
Because I was my daughter sitting over there. She listens. Oh, I tell them, I'm happy that you're here, but it wasn't my aim. You know what
Surprise.
I'm saying? So
Hmm.
when I see, and I'm gonna let you finish that because then we're gonna jump to Tamisha.
Hmm.
But for people that are watching, Gina's my cousin, and when she begins to talk, I'll be able to chime in to share like some of the guilt I had
Hmm.
because what I know about you all is that you're very nurturing. So it's like, Lord, her
What
child.
happened?
Yes. What happened?
Mhm.
For you to say that you were
What
in a
happened?
depressive state for a year, how did you come out of that, Tasha? Who did
It
you?
was, it was just the only way I really came out of it was just I just continued to stay connected with God and still just have that conversations and be real and raw with Him with how I felt. The things that I saw, even like when the baby announcements came in, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm happy for you. I'm like, Lord, help me, Jesus, because I still want my own, So you got that dual, and I'm just like, no, but I need to celebrate you because, soon it'll be time, my time, and I still believe that God is going to do just what He said. It's
Mm,
just His timing. And I had to go through this process. And so I just kept my face in His and said, Lord, help me, and just continue to pray and just continue to surround myself with praying women, praying folks to just help me through this process. That was the only way. It was prayer. I tell you all day long, it
yes.
was prayer.
Yes.
And just really just being open and vulnerable before the Lord and allowing Him to just come on in and minister to me. Like I said, He does everything for a purpose.
Yes. And so for you to say that, because we're going to get started with Tamisha, and I know Gina is just dying to get uh, her opportunity to talk. But Tasha, the fact that you said you were vulnerable, because I can only imagine, and maybe Tamisha, you can start with this. Were there feelings of guilt as if it was something wrong with you? Let me ask you that, Tamisha. Did you feel as if it was something wrong with you? And then after you answer that, you could tell us your journey of um, why you are here on this show today.
I absolutely thought that there was something wrong with me. That was and is an issue that I still have. If something doesn't go, according to how I think it should go, I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? It's something that I did or didn't do, or could I have approached it differently? Um, so I mean, I went through all kinds of thoughts like, we weren't in the right position. I'm not eating the way that I should. I'm not at a weight that I should be at. All of those things came into my mind. Um, so the my husband and I got married, and we didn't start trying to have a baby until a year after we got married because we knew that we needed time to get to know one another and all of that. So I was on birth control, and I got off of it a couple months before we started trying. And when we were trying, it was just like my monthly was coming right on time every time. And then maybe about 6 months into trying, I was late. And so I knew it was something because mine, since it began when I was 11 years old, comes right on time like clockwork. So I said, well, let me not get excited. Let me just. And my husband's so nosy. He said, I'm nosy, but he's a nosy one. So he noticed that I hadn't started, it was late. He was like, Tamisha, you think you pregnant? I was like, well, I don't know. We just have to wait and see and relax. So waited about three and a half weeks. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna just make this official. I'm gonna go to the doctor and I'm gonna take a test. And so on the way to the doctor, I started bleeding. And so I went into the doctor, took a test, and they were like, you have some numbers in here that shows that hormone, but it's not far enough along for it to have been a bona fide pregnancy. So I was like, okay, that's fine. We'll keep trying. So we tried again about a year later. And this time I didn't know I was pregnant until I was at work, and I was working at the church at the time. I was in a meeting and I just felt this sudden sharp pain in my abdomen. And I couldn't stand up straight. They were like, you need to drive you home. I was like, I think I'll be okay. I just need to go home. I don't know what's wrong. I thought I just had to go to the restroom. But I felt like I was dying once I got to the house. It was like every 30 seconds or so, I was feeling this extremely sharp pain, and it went from my abdomen to my back all the way around. And I called my mama and I was like, I think I'm dying. I called my husband, he didn't answer the phone. So I called my mama. I was like, I think I'm dying. She was like, what is wrong with you? I said, I don't know. And she was like, well, I can't get off work right now. My mom's a nurse, so that's why I called her. So she was like, let me call you back. And I said, okay. So I went in the restroom. I mean, I crawled in there and something came out of me. And it was actually a sack. So that was 2011. 2012 came along.
Excuse me.
And we still weren't pregnant. So we went to a specialist, and we spoke to him and told him about, what was going on. My husband got tested for his sperm count and found out it was normal. So then everything shifted to me. Like, something's wrong with you. And I knew I wanted children. I wanted them according to my plan. So I was like, I don't want to be pregnant at 40. I want to have kids and be done. So when I turn 40, I can be, back to being fine, and then just that didn't happen. I mean, I'm fine, but I mean,
Of course.
I have a 2-year-old, about to be 2-year-old. So anyway, so after we went to the doctor, it was becoming stressful for my husband and myself. So he knew that there was nothing wrong with him. So he was like, maybe it's not meant for us to be together. And I was like, what? You base our entire marriage on having children, and because we're trying and we had 2 miscarriages, that means we're not meant to be together? I mean, it got to the point where it was driving a wedge and separating us from being on one accord in the marriage.
Okay.
So there was some issues there. We had to go through some counseling. And there was I was under a lot of stress. My husband was not able to keep a job for the early part of our marriage. And so that really took a toll on me, having to be the breadwinner, having to be the head of household, basically. And my job kept me busy. I was working at the church as an assistant manager, communications director, and I was over the choir and over the praise team. At the time, the ministry was like at least 6,000 people. So we were having 3 services every week. I had to 3 services every Sunday, service on Tuesday, rehearsal on Wednesday, rehearsal on Thursday. So the ministry consumed my entire life. After we went to counseling and we went through the process of, getting marital counseling to get back on the same page, I got pregnant again. This time, it was going well. We were happy. We told the family. I had just made it past the first trimester. We told the family and everybody was excited. Then I had a death in the family. The last, my great uncle, he was the last to die out of my grandma's siblings. And it was hard for us. I went to Detroit to the service, came back home, and I started to bleed. But I didn't think anything of it. I was like, my husband and I missed each other while I was away. So I just thought it was because, we was a little excited to see each other. But the next day I started feeling some cramping. And so I was like, something may not be right. So I scheduled an appointment to get an ultrasound, went to get an ultrasound. Mind you, I'm 12 weeks at this point, about to be 13 weeks. So ultrasound, the technician is just pushing and pushing and pushing. I'm like, what's going on? And she was like, you're pregnant, but there's no baby. And I said, how is that? So she was like, there may have been a an embryo at some point, but then within the week or so, it couldn't continue growing. So I was like, okay, so what does that mean? She called it a spontaneous abortion or something of that sort. And so I was like, I don't understand how I could be pregnant and not have a baby. I mean, what else would I be pregnant with?
Right.
Church folks be like, I'm pregnant with possibility. No, that ain't no possibility there. What is going on?
Right.
So they gave me some medication to
Help with
induce
that.
labor. Yep.
Okay.
So I literally was in labor at church at a rehearsal.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I couldn't even stand up anymore. I had to leave rehearsal. My husband had to take me to the emergency room. And so I had the miscarriage there. At this point, I'm like, God, your word says be fruitful and multiply. So we know that's the purpose of marriage, right? You're supposed to have children. That's part of it. Both my husband and I grew up in church. We both, consider ourselves to live righteously, and we just didn't understand. So I said, well, instead of getting angry at God, which I could, I felt like maybe if I take a different position in my thought process. And so I relinquished my responsibilities at church. I started working out. I changed how I was eating. And then my husband got this big break with Tyler Perry. So we were like, yay, he's going to be an actor. We're going to have this huge Hollywood career. We were so excited. He was gone for like 2 months. And then I was flown down to Atlanta where he was, saw the taping of the play. And, that was the first time we had been separated. So that separation was good for us too. So unknowingly, my son was conceived in Atlanta during that whole Tyler Perry play thing. And so I had Davidson, my oldest son, and had no complications through the pregnancy other than just me gaining like 85 pounds. Other than that, no complications. Then when he didn't want to come out, so he had to be evicted. We went to get induced at 8 a.m. I got induced. It was about 5. The doctor was like, you're only 2 centimeters dilated. I was like, what? So she broke my water, which is very painful. And then she said, we'll see how far you get. So about 10 o'clock, 10:30, she comes back. She was like, you're only 3 centimeters dilated. And they checked my Davidson's heartbeat, and it was slowing down. They were like, we're going to have to do an emergency C-section. And I was like, no, why we got to do both? I mean, some women go through labor and then pop, the baby comes out. Or some women have a C-section and that's all they do. Why did I have to have both? I was mad about that. So had a C-section. Davidson was arrived at 12:02 a.m. I chose to breastfeed. And that was a struggle. My milk didn't come right away. So it was stressful. I wasn't hardly getting any sleep. That Friday, I was supposed to be checked out of the hospital. The nurse said, let me check your vitals one more time before we let you go. And my blood pressure was 180 over 100. And I was like, I don't feel anything. I don't have a headache. I don't feel sick to my stomach. I said, I just feel really tired. They were like, okay, well, maybe something's wrong with this machine. We'll get another one. Got another one. Blood pressure was 200 over 120. So they were like, okay, we can't release you with your blood pressure like that. We're going to give you some meds. And so they gave me some meds. I had to wait like 6 hours for my blood pressure to get down to about 160/90. And they were like, well, just take these meds over the weekend and then we'll check on you Monday. Monday came around. My blood pressure was like 180/110. So I had to do a sample, urine sample, and they found out that I had preeclampsia. And it was postpartum preeclampsia. So I had to be readmitted to the hospital, stayed there for like a week after I had my son, and I couldn't be with him. He couldn't stay with me because they wanted me to get as much rest as possible. I couldn't really have visitors. I'm like, okay, all this time I've been trying to conceive and I finally have a baby. And now it's like my body attacked me for having a baby. So then again, I was thinking, what did I do wrong? Should I have eaten better? Should I have not, allowed stress to bother me with my job and with ministry so long? So every time, like I said, Toya, every time it always turned back to something I did wrong. So I got out of the hospital, went to the doctor again, like 2 weeks later. My blood pressure was decent, but she was saying, because of, Black people's hereditary, things, that you probably have to stay on blood pressure medication for the rest of your life. And so I was like, gee, thanks. So I had preeclampsia, then I had blood pressure issues. So I was like, I'm not having no more kids. God gave me this miracle son. I'm so glad he's here. He's so special. He's so smart and so handsome and so funny. And I love him and I'm good. Right? So we moved to Atlanta. That didn't work out. We came back home and my husband was mad at me again because the Atlanta thing didn't work out. So we weren't really vibing all that well. And then I end up pregnant again. So I was like, we didn't plan this at all. I was like, I ain't trying to have another baby. That was 2 weeks in the hospital. Nope. So this pregnancy, I was nervous the entire time. I was going through anxiety the entire pregnancy. I was afraid I was going to get preeclampsia again. I was afraid I was going to blow up again, weight-wise. And so I didn't sleep well. I was always, it was like in the back of my mind, like, maybe this time, because a lot of pregnant women lose their life when they have a baby. I may lose my life with this one. The first time, they were able to get me back regulated. But this time, I don't know, because I'm older. And so all of these things were going through my mind. I was really sick the first trimester with my baby girl. But then after that, I felt amazing. Like my skin was beautiful. My hair was growing thick and full. I was like, oh, this is going to be a special child. So had the baby be a C-section because I wanted to tie them tubes. Because again, I didn't want to be pregnant at 40. So I had her at 38. Beautiful baby girl, super smart. She'll be 2 in a couple weeks. I couldn't imagine my life without them. I had times when I didn't think I was going to have a baby. And I would look at my friends like Toya, and she had 5 children. And I'm like, man.
No trouble getting pregnant.
I mean, where's my fertility? Like, I didn't know. I thought it was something wrong with me. I really did. And I understand now. God's timing is not ours. We can make plans, but God has purpose. And his purpose exceeds our plans.
Yeah. And I noticed that, I don't know if she pronounces it, Lisa Hines, but she said delay is not denial. And she had written that earlier, Tasha, while you were speaking. And I believe that with all of your stories, and then we'll get to you, Gina, it hasn't happened yet for Tasha, but she's the one that don't mind it being after 40. You know what I mean?
So, I kind of don't have a choice. I'm hit 40 already.
She don't mind. But Gina and Tamisha represents, okay, it did not happen initially, but eventually it happened because Gina has some beautiful children herself. So, Tamisha and Tasha, thank you, because I believe that your stories are contrasting in a good way, because Tamisha went to the mindset of, man, it's something going on with me. Like, everybody don't immediately go, their first thought is not going to be, oh, this is an opportunity for God to show himself strong. Some people are doing that. And so it's a blessing for you, Tasha. Lisa said, hey, Sarah was 99, right? So
Listen, I don't need to be 99, okay?
That's lies behind.
We gotta have that conversation. And don't do me like Sarah, Lord, please.
Tammy said after 40 is a great blessing as well, because she's a mom that did it after 40. So for women, what we're like, we were talking last week about this standard that society places on us, that you should have your 2.5 children and your marriage by a certain age, and that's just not the blueprint. That's boxing your life in, that's boxing God in. This is how he had it. You know, sometimes we don't, like I told you, I didn't necessarily plan mine, you know, but they're here. I'm grateful for them. They're here. So it brings us to my Gina. Gina, tell us about your journey into becoming a mom of those fantastic children that love their mama so much. I haven't heard them this entire show. They are upstairs, not in your way.
They're doing a good job staying upstairs.
Good.
I didn't plan mine either.
Okay.
I did feel like something was wrong with me at first for the first one. Okay, so I was back in 2002. I was pregnant. I did full term. I was much smaller then. Normal doctor's appointments, didn't have any trouble or anything. I go to my last checkup. That was supposed to be right before I was supposed to have them. They couldn't find a heartbeat. So I'm like, okay. So the doctor was like, well, just go to the hospital to get a more intense ultrasound or whatever. So I go, me and my mom go. So we're in there, they're getting an ultrasound. And then the lady, she gets quiet. So she's like looking at my mom, and I'm looking, and she was like, there's no heartbeat. So I'm like, huh? She's like, there's no heartbeat. So I took it in. I was like, okay, or whatever. So I'm thinking I'm going to have a C-section. No. I have to go through the whole normal labor. They induced my labor. Grandma Ty was there. So if anybody know Granny Ty, she plays no games. So I have to, like, when I'm getting contractions, she's walking in the hallway with me. I'm trying to stop, to take in the pain. She's like, no, she's making me literally run through them while she's running with me in the hallway. Like, no, you have to run and work through all of this stuff. I'm like, Grandma, like, it hurts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So go through all of that. Eventually had him the natural way, because I thought I was going to have a C-section. Come to find out, the cord was wrapped around his neck 2 times. Like, he had a big head, like we all do. So it's me, Jay. I think Jess was in there too, after all. So my family, we like to joke a lot. We did our crying and all of that stuff. So we looking at him and we like ribbing him. Like, talking about his head, his feet, and everything. So Mama in there like, don't be talking about my baby. But that was like a therapy for us,
right?
I believe. Me and my little brother, we're really close. But through this pregnancy, like, me and Just fought a whole lot. Like, we literally, like, fist fought once. So I know brother took it hard. It was like thinking it was something he did. I'm like, no, just like, I felt like I was just too small and he didn't have enough room in there.
Wow.
So, did the whole baby shower, had tons of clothes, all of that stuff. So after did that, had a funeral and everything, I would say I went through a depression stage. Yeah. Okay. Still worked, did all that stuff, because I'm not going to stop working.
That's Gina. That's Gina. You don't play about that money. What you say, Gina? You don't work, you don't eat.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I think we had Thanksgiving here that year, and I didn't want to come down. Like, I don't want to cry now. But Papa.
But where's your tissue? I told y'all before we started, go and grab that tissue. We're not doing this. This is real life. This is real life. Really.
Papa had made Mama go upstairs and come get me and make me come down. So Grandpa talked to me for a little bit. So we were in the bathroom talking, me and Papa. So with people knowing that we just lost our grandfather, so this is like, I don't want to talk, but I know I got to.
Yep.
But with Paul, he helped me come down for Thanksgiving, so that was good. After I talked to him, I was okay. I did think it was like something wrong with me though. Like, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I wasn't trying or whatnot. If y'all know me, it's like Gina got kids, and I told everybody like, yeah, I do what y'all do, but I just got caught. I feel like, or some of y'all have abortions. I just got caught. That's it. With me having a kid or whatever.
Mm-hmm. That's another conversation, but keep going.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm serious because people be ready to like check you for, and I was talking to Megan about this the other day, how people look at you and go, oh, you have so many children. Everybody know I have 5. And I would want to look back at them like, yeah, but how many should you have?
Right.
Don't go there.
Right.
So we're not going to go there, but keep going, Gina.
So after, his name was Caleb. He would have been, this August he'll be 18.
Wow.
5 years later, I get pregnant again with Kaylin. That's my daughter, the middle kid. I had bad cramps with her, so I went to the doctor to get checked out. I'm like, but mind you, I'm still having a monthly period. So I'm not thinking nothing's wrong with me. So the doctor's like, congratulations. Who would you congratulate, lady? First of all. She was like, I said I couldn't be because I'm on birth control. She was like, well, sometimes you have to switch up your birth control. Well, y'all want finna tell me this? Because I 4 years, yeah. So I'm like, okay. So deal with Kaylin. I don't think I told anybody about Kaylin. I'm not sure. I remember telling I didn't tell my dad. I like threw him the ultrasound. He was like, what is it? So my mom was like, Gina, like, why did I throw it to him? Well, you told me to tell him. You wouldn't tell him. So I told my dad, mind you, with Caleb, but due to the fact of what happened with Caleb, with Kaylin and Josh, I now, like, anytime I get pregnant, I have to go to the doctor 2 times a week because I have to go on a stress test. So I would go into work early to make sure I get my 8 hours in. Then I would go to my appointments, sit there. They would do whole stress test, blah, 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 blah. So with Kaylin, she was getting close to her due date or whatever. So my doctor, she knew or whatever. So she was like, do you want we can either have her that Monday or that Sunday. I was like, we're doing this Sunday. She was like, what time? I said, well, I got to go to church first. Wow. And it happened to be Father's Day. So I went to church first. Mm-hmm. After that, then we headed over to the hospital or whatnot. They wanted to induce me. They told me this before, but Mom, and I think it was Mama, Auntie Phil that had prayed. I was like, no, we're not going to have to do any induction or anything or whatnot with that. So I'm like, okay. So we get there. I still hadn't had any pains. But as soon as she made me and Mom get in the room, I'm going in to change clothes. It like hit me hard. So I was started where they didn't have to induce me or whatnot. So I'm like, but I do want an epidural. So he goes, Mom, no, we don't. Who is we, Mom? Because we're not.
Auntie Sam is the greatest. She's the greatest.
You don't feel any of this. So, no. So, Kaylin, I get my epidural. In the labor room, it's only supposed to be maybe like 3 people. With Kaylin, not sure how it was Toya, my mom, my dad, her godmom, which is my cousin Lauren, comprehensive wellness lady, and then Lauren's mom, Auntie Theo. Yeah. So they were all in the room while I'm about to deliver. How, we have no clue. Lauren and Auntie Phil is back there arguing because Lauren is mad that Auntie Phil is in there like, well, Mama, how you get in here? She was like, I don't know. So with Kaylin, everything worked out fine. I pushed her out or whatever. I went to sleep. Like after I had her, I don't remember anything. But I remember waking up and Toya's holding Kaylin and they're talking. And I'm like, why is she not asleep? Like, what's going on? But I roll back over and I go to sleep. So that's my second one, Kaylin. Josh, he's the last one. Geez. Once again, still having my monthlies regular again. Changing my birth control. Like, what the heck? We have it like, no, we're not congratulating again. Like, really, lady. So he's fine. Go through the whole, the 2 times a week.
Yeah.
with the stress test or whatnot. I would normally go in this one room to go have my stress test done. My normal doctor, she was out doing the delivery, so I had to go into another room. So I'm in there as normal on the table. They have me strapped up or whatnot. A different doctor come in or whatever. She was like, "You're gonna have a baby today." I said, "You lying?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," because I mean to say, "You lying?" I was like, "Huh?" She was like, "Yeah, her office is right next to where it was at, well, where I was doing the stress test at." She was like, "His heart rate is going up and down. You're having this baby today."
Mm.
I'm like, "I can't." I was like, "Can I go home and get my bag or at least leave my car there so we can have one car to go get my mom?" She was like, "Go get your bag and your mom and you go right to the hospital." Mind you, I had just packed my bag. It may have not even been a week.
Wow.
He wasn't supposed to come till February, but he came end of January. So we go to the hospital. They strap me all up. His heart rate is still going up and down, up and down. We're still waiting or whatnot. I'm not opening up enough or I haven't been dilated enough for him to come out. She was like, "No, we're going to do an emergency C-section." I'm like, "Really?" She was like, "Yes." Josh was sitting like so high, like I'm already top heavy. Like you couldn't tell I was pregnant because he sat right up under me or whatnot. So they had to do the whole C-section with him too. My doctor, she did make it. She's a short lady. She had to step on a stepping stool and actually push him down to get him out.
Wow.
He comes out, the cord is wrapped around his neck as well.
Wow.
So have we waited?
And tell everybody his middle name.
Chance.
And why did you give him Chance?
Joshua Chance, because it was my second chance at having a boy.
Oh,
Child, if you meet him, you will
Lord.
like that. Yeah, that's him right here. Like I knew he had to come. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why,
Yeah.
but he had to come. Also with him too, his due date was on his uncle's birthday. His uncle had passed away on his father's brother. So it was like a second chance on both sides. And his name is Joshua. So that's why he got Joshua and Chance.
Wow.
So when my Thule, well, I call him Thule. Yeah, and I don't know what it is about those boys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he had to be here. He's a different kid.
When you say about those boys, we got to look at what's happening in our society.
Ooh.
Our black boys and some of the young ladies, but our black boys are being gunned down. And if anybody has been awake this past week, you saw what happened to the young man back in February in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank God that he made it, that you made it, that you're telling your story, and that timing is so important because it's those little details that make a big deal that we can sometimes just kind of dish off. You know, you had like every step for you to pack your bag a week before, you know, and for them to say, "No, you have to go now." Man.
Yeah, for the room to be at a different, like I said, I'm normally not in that room and to be right next to that doctor. So I was like, okay, this one, he had to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but yeah.
Somebody had a question for you all, and this is open for anybody to answer this, but how can those close to you support you during that time? The grief is experienced by others, but I feel no one wants to touch it, so it goes unspoken. Can I just speak to that real quick while you all think about how you're going to respond? My oldest daughter, Gina's favorite, Sade, me and Gina and I were pregnant at the same time. Jason was getting ready to have Janaya. Well, actually, Janaya, you know, so they all would have been the same age. Like they would have been the running buddies. And so when we went to the funeral, Sade I just had her in March. I had a tremendous amount of guilt where I did not even want to come around you, Gina, because even for me, I'm like, God, you let me have 3. You couldn't just give her one. So I felt guilty bringing my children around. And I remember that Thanksgiving. I remember Granny had to go upstairs
Mhm.
and she sat up there with you for a while.
Mhm.
But how can we help you all? Because it happened in 2002, 2010, 2011, how can we, as your supporters, be there for you? Because sometimes some of us do feel uncomfortable, like even bringing it up.
I'll just jump in. You know, I
Oh,
believe sometimes it's just your presence. Sometimes there's no words need to be spoken, but just being there. Um, Sometimes sitting in the quiet and just even praying, and it helps a lot. It really does. And even when we do need to share or talk, just being that listening ear. Um, I can say that's what helped me along the way, because there was many times where, you know, my sisters will come by and we'll just sit in silence, and totally comfortable with that, was no problem. And I appreciated the silence, because sometimes when you lose, you don't necessarily know the words to say that will bring comfort.
Hmm.
And but presence makes all the difference. You know, just like when we go into the presence of God, everything that we worried about, or everything that we that plagues us, or depresses us, or whatever the case may be, it just peels off. And so the power of presence, it really speaks volumes. The human touch speaks
Yeah.
volumes for us.
Yes.
So in that way, I believe
I
that,
believe that.
you can support us, um, and it'll help us to take it. We just have to. Some people will say, some people, I will say, that have set grief times. Okay, you should be over there now. No,
Mhm.
um, that's not necessarily the case for everybody. You just have to learn to take it moment by moment and just build on. You live on, but you build on, and you just have to take it moment by moment until you can take it um, day by day, or whatever the case may be. But uh, I think that will be the best way to support, is just be there.
Tamisha or Gina, either you want to chime in regards to that?
Yeah, I actually put on the church face. So I was embarrassed that I lost the baby and was trying to make jokes and things of that sort to kind of keep my mind off of it. And so that I wouldn't have to have awkward conversations. And I say the church face because I still was very, very active at church. And I didn't want people to, I was a leader. So I didn't want people to see me grieve. I don't want people to see um, me upset. I, sometimes I play too strong, and that's kind of the issue that I had, not feeling comfortable with actually sharing my grief. So that second, after that third miscarriage, I chose to handle it differently. I chose to spend time with God and to kind of re-love myself,
Mhm.
um, so that I could get on with life, so to speak. When I think about it now in retrospect, I would have 5 children just like you, Toya.
Hmm.
That doesn't go away because they're not here.
Okay.
So I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for my circle. My family didn't know all the details. They'd be like, you still not pregnant yet? No.
Mm.
Uh, y'all need a book to show you how to do it. I mean,
Oh.
that's the type of
Not a
that's
book.
the type of people that was around. So because those were the people that were around me, we were always up front. I didn't put my grief and my mourning out there. And I kind of wish that I would have, there wouldn't be such a stigma against therapy. Because I would have definitely seen a therapist at that time.
Oh, can I stop
Somebody to
there?
talk to. Yep.
Since you said therapist, for those of you that are watching, we have a great therapist that has been on the show a few times. Lauren Todd, her information is at the bottom. You can reach her at her email, her phone number, comprehensive wellness. I really want to push that for others because sometimes, like hearing you say that, y'all need a book to show you how, and sometimes we can say things out of our mouths, not realizing how we are really causing damage to someone. This is why we have to really be careful with this tongue because
Yes.
you don't know what you're saying to someone. Oh, and Lauren has another question for you all. Do you celebrate the time you had with your children? If so, how? Thank you, Lauren, because that's a great question. Like, do you honor the time like around their due dates, or like in Caleb's case, every year? How do you honor your child?
My kids don't let me forget. So Kayla and them, they'll remember and I forget. Like when Mama, it's about to be August, I'm like, oh, child, show is. So we go and visit, do the balloons, all that stuff. Do
Good.
that. And then say I did go to like a support group
Okay.
after. So I went a couple of times. And then I also Mama, she won't care. Mom, we know Mama losing Nia too, so we were able to talk too. And I'm more of a visual person, so I made like a scrapbook. So the kids they'll go through it and they'll look and they'll see pictures. Like his hair, his band, and do all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we do celebrate it. And they make sure to remember. And my kids even still argue over who was first, second, and third. Like Josh the other day told Caitlin, I was her first. And we're both like, I'm not sure how you were first, but you're first son. And then my kids also, they feel like they're single, like they're the only kids. I don't know why. I mean, I do try to spend time separate from them to give them each their time with myself, but
Yeah.
it's just weird. Like I don't get that how they do that. But yeah, to answer the question, yeah, I do. We go there, celebrate birthdays, do balloons, cake, everything.
Fantastic. Tasha?
Well, the beautiful thing with the hospital I was at, they gave me a memory box. And so in the box, I have her little dress, her hat, her hand and footprint, and um, card cards basically. And so anytime that it's not necessarily in around the time of her birth, um, but anytime I just feel a little down or I'm thinking about her a little bit more, I'll go and I'll look at her pictures and just, thank God for the opportunity to be her mom because you know what? She was a little sassy girl. It came out. It's just she was just sassy. I thought she was a boy, but she was a girl. So, but she was very sassy.
I wonder where she got the
I
sassy.
don't know. And we don't even need to discuss that. So
I just, I just wonder that.
I don't know either. It's a mystery. Maybe it was a grandmother or something. I don't know. But so I will just sometimes I'll go and I'll open up the memory box and um, just look at those pictures and just remember that way. And sometimes on the day I'll put up just a single flower, and my saying was always "Good morning, Grace."
Wow.
And so for those that walk with me through the process, they knew exactly what was going on when they saw Good Morning Grace in the single flower.
Wow.
Well, the first two miscarriages, were too early in the pregnancy. The last one that I had, I actually had to sign a death certificate, and so I have a photo album of the ultrasounds and all of that with the death certificate. It was too soon to know if it was a girl or a boy, but they're just my angel babies. And I trust that, when I get to heaven, I'll see them.
Wow. I just, I want to say this. I believe that is so beautiful. that you all are still honoring the fact that they were a part of this world,
Mhm.
no matter how long they were here, and more importantly, a part of you, because it started with you. I appreciate you all coming on here sharing these heartfelt stories. I know I could have done a show with ladies talking about, some of the most embarrassing moments being a mom and all that we go through, and we have stories for days. But there are a lot of women that Tasha represents. They haven't been able to do it that way, or what we call the natural way. But someone, Ms. Hines also brought up as well, adoption. There are a lot of women, men that are becoming parents that way, because some people realize I'd rather my child be in the care of someone that can take care of them better than I can. So therefore, that's an option, because I don't want ladies that have adopted to feel as if they're not a mom. Like Tasha, the work that you do, she works with our adult population that need assistance. And so that's a mother role. They still need the nurturing, they still need the guidance, and it's the heart that you have, Tasha, where you are being a mom, and you're the stead for a lot of them because their mothers can't be with them right now. And so God has you there. Gina, for you to have, and I know you, for you to have Joshua and Kaylin, my goodness, keep you on your toes. But you are like, if I had to give a mother award to somebody like you, you're going to always be a nomination for me. Because I see the hard work that you put in being a mother. It's not easy. It's not easy being married. I've done it. I was single, got married, got divorced. So I did the whole single partnership and back to being single again. Being a single parent is tough. It's just tough being a parent, period. And so all the hard work that you do, Gina, thank you. And then she's about ready to yell at one of her kids now. For all the hard work that you do, it is not going on. Gosh, that's Josh. He had to do it. He had to do it. So and Tamisha, to you, thank you for the Parker show and Davidson show. I'm telling you, everything in life has a purpose. And Nicole said, we appreciate each of you for sharing your transparent stories. We pray each of you are healed even more for sharing and helping others. You are true sheroes. We love you and continue to live your lives on purpose. I am so appreciative of you all coming on. I know that we have a lot of mothers that are watching. I want to tell you all thank you for tuning in with us. Some of you may not be a mom yet, but when you are helping your sister or your cousin or your friend with her children, Gina, we always talk about that village. We need the village. You may not have physically birthed those children, but there is still a seed that you can plant in their lives. So we need you. We need everybody to keep sharing their stories. But before y'all get off, because y'all not getting off that fast, I want you all to think about something that you're grateful for. Gina, I'm going to let you go first. Then Tasha, then we'll end with Tamisha. Something that you're grateful for as soon as you get off of mute.
Because Joshua decided to turn on YouTube in the kitchen. What am I grateful for? I'll say them. I'll say Kaylin and Chance.
Okay.
Just because they helped me get through.
Okay.
Every day. Yeah.
Okay. Tash.
Well, I'm grateful for my support system. So my family, my friends, my sisters, because I don't have any biological sisters, but my best friends have become my sisters, my inner circle. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to even experience pregnancy and having a child just for the time that I had. I know my story's not over.
It's not.
Right.
It's not.
That's
It's not. Misha?
I'm thankful for my mother who raised me, mostly single mother raised me. And I wanted to have children so I could be like her. So I'm thankful for my mom.
Wow. And I'll say this, and not just because it's Mother's Day, but I think we all need something um, that can help, like, give us that inspiration to keep going. It's real easy to get super saved and say Jesus is all I need, God is all I need. But when you're in the thick of things, I know for me, what has kept me going were my children. Because one thing that I did ask God was, Lord, please keep me on this earth until my youngest is 18, because I did not want anybody else to have to raise them. So I'm grateful for God trusting me to instill as much as I can into those 5 human beings. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for knowing you 3. I'm grateful that I can call you all friend. Gina, we know each other by default, but still friend. Like I love you all tremendously. I thank you for sharing your stories. You don't know. There are some women that have gone through that. They can't talk about it. They're not at the place where they can talk about it. So the fact that you all came on here tonight and share with us, I'm so grateful for all you lovely ladies that are telling each other Happy Mother's Day. Take care of yourselves. We got to take care of ourselves. So my prayer is that everybody has a wonderful weekend. Please meet us back here next week. The topic is going to be on preachers' kids. So it's going to be preachers' kids. So please come back. Now, download the RETV app. Oh, it's gonna be something else, honey. It really is. When you got
I know.
When you got the Eubanks coming, you got the Todd, and you got the Meltons from Mississippi. Oh, it's gonna be a time. So please, everybody, share the video if you were helped. Tamisha's information was at the bottom. Tasha's information is at the bottom. Tasha is writing, so please follow her on her blog. If you want to reach out to Gina some kind of way, you will find you'll find her. Because Gina,
Hi, teacher.
hey, and don't forget, because let me tell you all something. I can talk about it, but you all can connect with some women that actually experienced it on a different level. And if you need counseling, Lauren Todd's information, Comprehensive Wellness, is at the bottom as well. So I love you all so much. Now, you 3 don't hang up just yet. But everybody else that has been with us, thank you. Please come back next week. Have a wonderful night.
Good night.
Good night.